For over 200 years, the galaxy had known peace. There were small border fights. There were trade disputes. There were political arguments inside the Galactic Council. But nothing had ever threatened the balance of power between the great empires. The strongest among them was the Zorvax Empire. Their worlds stretched across hundreds of star systems. Their fleets were powerful. Their armies were feared. Many races respected them. Many others feared them. The Zorvax leaders believed their empire would last forever. Then, one morning everything changed. It started with a simple report. On the planet Varkan Prime, a communication station missed its scheduled transmission. At first, nobody worried. Technical failures happened all the time. The operators tried again. No response. They sent another signal. Nothing. The station remained silent. A few hours later, military headquarters contacted the planet directly. Again, there was no answer. That was unusual. Varkan Prime was one of the most important worlds in the Empire. Millions of people lived there. Thousands of ships traveled through its space every day. There should have been some kind of response, but there was only silence. The Zorvax commanders assumed it was a system failure. They dispatched a repair ship. The vessel entered the system, then it disappeared from communication as well. The crew never reported back. Now people were beginning to worry. Emergency teams were sent. Military patrols followed one by one. Every ship that entered, the system vanished from contact. No distress calls, no battle reports, no warnings, nothing. It was as if the entire star system had simply stopped existing. The news quickly reached the capital world of Zorvax. Government officials demanded answers. Military leaders ordered investigations. Scientists searched for explanations. Nobody found any. Then things became even worse. Less than 2 days later, another planet went silent. This time it was Corrales, a wealthy industrial world. The same thing happened. Communications stopped. Ships disappeared. No one answered. No one explained. The planet simply vanished behind a wall of silence. Fear began spreading across the empire. People started asking questions. What could silence an entire world? What could make billions of people disappear without leaving a single message? The answers never came. Instead, a third planet stopped responding, then a fourth, then a fifth. Every new report brought more panic. The situation was no longer a mystery. It was becoming a crisis. Across the galaxy, governments watched nervously. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from dozens of races filled the massive chamber. The atmosphere was tense. No one knew what was happening. Some believed an unknown enemy had appeared. Others feared a deadly new weapon. A few whispered about ancient legends, stories of forgotten civilizations that once ruled the stars. Perhaps something old had awakened. Perhaps something terrible had returned. The theories grew more frightening every day. Yet none of them explained the facts. No debris had been found, no battles had been detected, no fleets had been seen. Entire planets were simply going silent, as if someone had flipped a switch. The council ordered long-range scans. The results only deepened the mystery. The planets were still there. Cities still stood. Power systems were active. Life signs were present. Billions of people were alive. But nobody was communicating. Nobody was answering. It was like those worlds had been completely cut off from the rest of the galaxy. Inside the council chamber, fear slowly turned into confusion. Then an elderly intelligence officer stood up. His name was Terran Sol. For nearly 50 years, he had studied military operations across the galaxy. He rarely spoke during council meetings, but this time, he requested permission to address the chamber. The room fell silent. Terran activated a holographic display. Several images appeared above the center table. The first showed the 5 silent planets. The second displayed military records. The third revealed security reports from the last few months. The old officer looked around the room. His face was serious. "These planets have one thing in common," he said. The representatives leaned forward. "What is it?" one of them asked. Terran touched the display. A new image appeared. The room immediately reacted. Some looked confused, others looked surprised. Several began whispering to each other. The image showed a small group of humans, only 12 of them human special forces. The room erupted with questions. What do humans have to do with this? Why are they involved? This cannot be serious. Terran waited for the noise to settle. Then he continued. 3 months ago, these operators entered Zorvax space. The room became quiet again. According to intelligence reports, they were searching for captured human scientists. Many representatives remembered the event. The Zorvax Empire had publicly captured a human research station. The incident had been broadcast across the galaxy. The Zorvax leaders had mocked humanity during the announcement. They had laughed openly. They had called humans weak. They had called human soldiers overrated. The entire galaxy had watched. Many people still remembered the humiliation, but nobody understood what it had to do with the silent planets. Terran pointed toward the holographic app. One by one, glowing markers appeared. The representatives stared at the display. Strange pattern emerged. Every silent planet had something in common. Each world had reported sightings of human special forces shortly before communications failed. The room became completely silent. No one spoke. No one moved. The possibility seemed impossible. 12 humans could not threaten an entire empire. 12 soldiers could not silence worlds. It made no sense. Yet the evidence was sitting right in front of them. Terran looked around the chamber. His voice became even quieter. The Zorvax Empire laughed at these humans. Nobody interrupted him. The question we must ask is simple. He paused. Every eye in the room was fixed on him. Then he asked the question that would soon terrify the entire galaxy. What if laughing at them was the biggest mistake the Empire ever made? 3 months before the silent planets shocked the galaxy, a very different story was making headlines across every major news network. At the center of that story was humanity. And according to most alien races, humanity had just suffered one of its most embarrassing defeats. The trouble began near the outer edge of human-controlled space. A small scientific station orbited a lonely star. Officially, it was a research facility studying rare energy crystals found in the system. The station was peaceful. Its crew consisted mostly of scientists, engineers, and civilian workers. Very few military personnel were stationed there. Nobody expected trouble. Then the Zorvax Empire arrived. Without warning, a fleet of warships emerged from hyperspace. Massive battle cruisers surrounded the station. The scientists never had a chance. Within minutes, the station was under Zorvax control. The attackers seized all research data. They captured every human aboard. Then they broadcast their victory to the entire galaxy. For the Zorvax leadership, this was not simply a military operation. It was a message, a warning, a display of power. Across thousands of worlds, giant screens showed the Zorvax Supreme Commander standing proudly before the captured station. His voice echoed through homes, government buildings, and military headquarters. Humanity continues to expand beyond its limits, he announced. They believe they can challenge powers far greater than themselves. The commander smiled. But today, they have been reminded of their true place. Crowds cheered across Zorvax worlds. Many citizens celebrated the victory. The captured humans were displayed as trophies. To the Empire, it was proof that humans were weak. The broadcasts continued for days. Every speech became more insulting. Every message became more arrogant. Human soldiers were mocked. Human technology was ridiculed. Even human history became a joke. The galaxy watched everything. Some races felt uncomfortable. Others quietly agreed with the Zorvax leaders. After all, humanity was still relatively new compared to older galactic civilizations. Many aliens saw humans as ambitious but inexperienced. The Zorvax Empire believed they had finally exposed humanity as a fragile species hiding behind confidence on Earth. However, the reaction was very different. The public was angry. The families of the captured scientists demanded action. Military Leaders called emergency meetings. Government officials reviewed intelligence reports around the clock. Everyone wanted answers. Everyone wanted the prisoners returned. Yet despite the growing pressure, Earth's leaders remained calm. There were no threats, no emotional speeches, no promises of revenge. Instead, humanity sent a formal diplomatic message to the Zorvax Empire. The message was short, simple, direct. Return the captured civilians. Immediately, that was all. No insults, no demands for compensation, no military threats, just a request for the safe return of innocent people. Many observers believed the crisis could still be solved peacefully. Unfortunately, the Zorvax leadership had no interest in peace. The reply arrived 2 days later, and it shocked the galaxy. Instead of responding through private diplomatic channels, the Zorvax Empire broadcast their answer publicly. Millions watched the transmission. The Supreme Commander appeared once again. This time, he was laughing. Several senior officers stood behind him, smiling. The commander held the human message in his hand, then he crumpled it. The crowd around him erupted with laughter. Humanity requests the return of its people, he said. More laughter followed. Then his expression became cold. If humans wish to see these prisoners again, they may come and take them. The chamber behind him exploded with applause. The message spread across the galaxy within hours. News networks replayed it continuously. Commentators debated what would happen next. Many expected humanity to back down. The Zorvax Empire was simply too powerful. Its fleets outnumbered Earth's forces. Its territory was enormous. Its military budget was legendary. No sensible leader would risk war over a handful of prisoners. At least that was what most people believed. But once again, humanity surprised everyone. 3 days later, Earth sent another message. Unlike the Zorvax broadcast, this one was not dramatic. No crowds, no military parade, no threats, only a single human representative standing behind a simple desk. The room was quiet. His face showed no anger, no fear, no emotion at all. He looked directly into the camera, then he delivered one sentence. If our people are not returned peacefully, we will bring them home ourselves, nothing more. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, many aliens laughed. Social media exploded with jokes. Commentators mocked the statement. Military analysts dismissed it. How exactly did humanity plan to enter one of the most heavily defended empires in existence? The idea sounded ridiculous. Even some human allies privately worried that Earth had made a mistake. But inside the Zorvax Empire, the reaction was even worse. The leadership treated the message as entertainment. At official banquets, officers repeated it as a joke. Television hosts mocked it. Military cadets laughed about it during training exercises. The phrase became a galaxy-wide punchline. We will bring them home ourselves. People repeated it everywhere. Nobody took it seriously. Nobody believed humans could actually act on such a promise. Then, something unexpected happened. Human military activity appeared to stop. Weeks passed. No fleets moved toward Zorvax territory. No threats were issued. No battles occurred. Human warships remained inside their own borders. To outside observers, it looked as though humanity had accepted defeat. The Zorvax leaders certainly thought, so their confidence grew. Their arrogance became even stronger. What they did not know was that events had already been set in motion. While the galaxy laughed at Earth's warning, 12 people were quietly preparing for a mission unlike anything the Empire had ever faced. No giant fleets would be used. No armies would march. No planets would be bombed. The operation would depend on something far more dangerous: patience, planning, and 12 highly trained human special forces operators, hidden deep inside a secure military facility on Earth. Those 12 individuals studied maps of Zorvax space. They learned every defense system, every patrol route, every security protocol, every weakness. They knew the mission might be impossible. They knew most people expected them to fail. None of that mattered, because for them, this mission was never about politics. It was never about pride. It was never about proving humanity's strength. Their people had been taken, and they were going to bring them home. No matter what stood in their way. Far across the galaxy, the Zorvax Empire continued celebrating its victory. They laughed, they mocked, they boasted, and while they laughed, 12 humans quietly disappeared into the darkness between the stars. The galaxy never noticed them leave. But before long, the entire galaxy would notice the results. The Zorvax Empire never saw them coming. That was the first mistake. For weeks, the Empire continued celebrating its victory over the human research station. News programs praised the military. Politicians gave speeches. Admirals proudly talked about the weakness of humanity. No one paid attention to the darkness between the stars. No one noticed 12 small figures moving silently through enemy territory. The human Special Forces team crossed into Zorvax space, using routes that were almost forgotten. Old mining tunnels, abandoned jump gates, hidden paths used by smugglers decades earlier. Every step was carefully planned. Every movement had a purpose. The team knew they could not fight the Zorvax Empire directly. An army would be detected, a fleet would be destroyed. But 12 people could become invisible, and invisible enemies were often the most dangerous. Their leader was Commander Ethan Cross, a veteran with nearly 20 years of experience. He had participated in missions across dozens of star systems. He understood one important truth. The strongest enemy was often blinded by its own confidence. That truth would become the foundation of the entire operation. The team's first objective was simple: find the captured scientists. Nothing else mattered. The mission was supposed to be a rescue operation. At least that was the official plan. But the deeper they moved into enemy territory, the more strange things they discovered. One night, the team infiltrated a military communications center on a remote moon. The facility controlled transmissions between several nearby systems. Cross expected to find information about prisoner locations. Instead, they found something else: secret military orders, thousands of pages of classified files. The information shocked them. The Zorvax Empire was not simply holding prisoners. It was preparing for war, a massive war. Earth was the target. The operators spent hours studying the documents: ship movements, fleet construction, supply routes, weapons production. Everything pointed toward one conclusion. The Empire planned to invade human space within the next year. The captured scientists had never been the main goal. They were only the beginning. Commander Cross stared at the reports in silence. The mission had suddenly become much bigger. If the information was correct, billions of human lives were at risk. The team copied every file. Then they vanished before the guards even realized anyone had been there. Days later, confusion began spreading through the communications center. Important files were missing. Security records had been erased. Nobody understood how it happened. Investigators searched for spies. They found nothing, because the humans were already gone. Far away. Watching, learning, waiting. As the weeks passed, the operators continued moving deeper into the Empire. Wherever they went, strange things followed. Military supply ships suddenly changed course after receiving false orders. Weapon shipments arrived at the wrong destinations. Important meetings were canceled because commanders received fake emergency alerts. Each event seemed small, harmless, unimportant, but together, they created chaos. The Zorvax military began wasting enormous amounts of time and resources, yet nobody suspected human involvement. The mistakes appeared random. The Empire blamed technical problems, computer failures, human error, bad luck, anything except the truth. The truth was much more embarrassing. 12 humans were quietly manipulating an empire that controlled hundreds of worlds. One evening, the team reached a heavily protected prison complex hidden inside an asteroid field. According to intelligence reports, the captured scientists were being held there. The prison was considered impossible to infiltrate. Thousands of guards protected it. Advanced sensors surrounded the facility. Automated weapons covered every approach. The Zorvax commanders believed nobody could enter without being detected. The humans entered anyway. The operation took less than 4 hours. Using stolen security codes, false maintenance reports, and carefully timed distractions, the team slipped through the defenses. No alarms sounded. No guards were harmed. Most personnel never even knew intruders were present. Deep inside the prison, the operators finally located the scientists. The prisoners were exhausted but alive. Many had expected rescue attempts. None had expected success. When the first human operator entered their cell block, several scientists thought they were dreaming. One elderly researcher stared at Commander Cross in disbelief. "How did you get here?" he whispered. Cross smiled. "We took a shortcut. The rescue should have ended there. The prisoners were found. The objective was complete. The logical choice was to leave immediately. But before departing, the team discovered one final piece of information, and it changed everything. Inside the prison database was a restricted intelligence archive. Cross accessed it while preparing evacuation plans. What he found froze him in place. The archive contained details about a classified Zorvax project, a project hidden from almost everyone inside the Empire. Even many senior military leaders were unaware of its existence. The file referred to something called the Nexus Network. At first, the name seemed harmless. Then the team began reading. The network connected military command centers across dozens of important worlds: communications, defense systems, orbital weapons, fleet coordination. Everything relied on the Nexus Network. The Empire's greatest strength came from that single system. Without it, entire sectors could become isolated. Without it, planets could lose contact with one another. Without it, military forces would become blind. Commander Cross immediately understood the importance. The network was not merely infrastructure. It was the nervous system of the entire Empire. The scientists studied the information carefully. The more they learned, the more dangerous it became. For years, the Zorvax leadership had concentrated control into a small number of hidden facilities. They believed centralization made them stronger, more efficient, more organized. Instead, it had created a weakness nobody had noticed. Until now. Cross looked at the holographic map displayed before him. Small markers appeared across several worlds. Each marker represented a Nexus control center. Each center played a vital role, and suddenly, a dangerous possibility entered his mind. The rescue mission was finished, but the war plans they discovered were real. If humanity simply escaped now, the invasion would continue. Sooner or later, Earth would face a massive attack. The team gathered in a secure room. Nobody spoke for several moments. Everyone understood the situation. They had completed their orders. Yet they now possessed information capable of changing the future of the galaxy. Finally, one operator broke the silence. "If we leave now, they'll keep preparing." Another nodded. "They'll come for Earth eventually." Cross looked around the room. The rescued scientists were listening. The operators were waiting. Outside the prison, the stars drifted silently through the darkness. Then Commander Cross made a decision that would soon shake the entire galaxy. "We're not finished," he said quietly. The room fell silent. The rescue mission was over. A new mission had just begun, and somewhere deep inside the Zorvax Empire, entire planets were about to become very, very quiet. The rescue mission was complete. The captured scientists were safe. The human Special Forces team had achieved what many believed was impossible, but nobody was celebrating. Inside a hidden transport vessel moving through deep space, Commander Ethan Cross stood in silence, staring at the holographic map floating before him. The glowing points represented Nexus control centers. At first glance, they looked harmless. Small facilities, routine infrastructure, nothing special. Yet Cross knew the truth. Those centers controlled the flow of information across much of the Zorvax Empire. Every military order, every fleet movement, every emergency response. Everything passed through the Nexus network, and now humanity knew exactly where its weakest points were hidden. The rescued scientists sat nearby, studying the stolen files. One of them, Dr. Lena Ward, pointed toward the map. The Empire built this system to make command faster, she explained. But they made a mistake. Cross looked at her. What kind of mistake? She enlarged one section of the network. Thousands of connections appeared. The entire structure depends on a few central hubs. The room became quiet. Another scientist nodded. If these hubs stop working, the network breaks apart. Cross understood immediately. The Empire had created its own weakness. The more powerful the network became, the more dependent everyone became on it. And dependence could be dangerous. Very dangerous. Still, the commander hesitated. The mission had already gone far beyond its original purpose. Their orders were to rescue prisoners, not launch a secret campaign against an empire, not start a conflict that could affect billions of lives. For several hours, the team debated their options. Some believed they should return home immediately. The intelligence they had gathered was already valuable. Earth could use it to prepare defenses. Others disagreed. They argued that waiting would only give the Zorvax Empire more time. Sooner or later, the invasion plans would move forward. Humanity would be forced into a war it did not choose. Finally, Cross made his decision. We don't destroy planets. Everyone nodded. We don't attack civilians. Again, everyone agreed. Then his expression hardened. But we stop the invasion before it begins. The room fell silent. The operation would continue. A new objective had been chosen. The Nexus network would become their target. Not through brute force, not through massive battles, but through precision. The way human special forces always preferred. The first target was a control facility hidden beneath the icy surface of a distant moon. According to intelligence records, the station coordinated military communications across 23 star systems. The facility was protected by thousands of soldiers. Orbital defenses surrounded the moon. Advanced scanners watched every approach. The Zorvax commanders considered it completely secure. That confidence became their weakness. 3 nights later, the human team arrived. Using a stolen cargo vessel, they entered the moon's orbit without raising suspicion. The ship carried supplies regularly delivered to the facility. The guards barely looked at it. After all, who would attack using a supply ship? The answer was simple. Humans. The operators slipped inside the station disguised as maintenance workers. No alarms sounded. No one noticed. Hours later, they reached the central control chamber. Rows of glowing servers stretched across enormous rooms. Data flowed through the network every second. Millions of messages, military orders, fleet commands, defense updates. Everything passed through this facility. Cross studied the systems carefully. Then he smiled. The network was even more vulnerable than expected. The humans did not destroy the equipment. Instead, they planted sophisticated software deep inside the system. A hidden program, invisible, silent, waiting. The station continued operating normally. The guards never noticed anything unusual. The operators left the facility exactly as they entered. Undetected. The mission was a complete success, and nobody inside the Empire had any idea. Over the following weeks, the team repeated the process again and again. One control center after another. One hidden hub after another. Every mission carried enormous risk. One mistake could expose everything. One failure could bring the entire Zorvax military crashing down on them. Yet somehow the operators remained invisible. At one facility, they disguised themselves as engineers. At another, they posed as inspectors. On one world, they entered through an underwater maintenance tunnel nearly forgotten by local authorities. Every success expanded their access. Every operation increased their understanding of the Nexus network. Soon they possessed something priceless. Control. Not complete control, but enough. More than enough. Meanwhile, strange problems began appearing throughout the Empire. Military commanders received delayed orders. Fleet movements became slightly disorganized. Supply deliveries arrived hours late. Nothing serious, nothing dramatic, just enough to create confusion. Investigators searched for explanations. Most blamed technical failures, some blamed overworked personnel, Others blamed outdated equipment. Nobody imagined an enemy was responsible. Nobody imagined 12 humans were quietly pulling invisible strings. As the months passed, the Zorvax invasion plans continued moving forward. New warships entered service. Weapons factories increased production. Military exercises expanded. The Empire believed victory over humanity would be easy. The leadership remained arrogant, confident, certain. They had no idea their greatest advantage was slowly becoming their greatest weakness. Then something unexpected happened. During a routine intelligence review, the human team discovered a classified emergency protocol. The protocol had been designed decades earlier. Very few people knew it existed. The scientists studied the files carefully. What they found shocked everyone. If enough Nexus hubs were disrupted simultaneously, entire planets could become isolated from the Imperial network. Not destroyed, not harmed, simply disconnected. Communication systems would fail, military coordination would collapse, defense networks would stop responding. The worlds would effectively disappear from the Empire's command structure. Dr. Ward looked at the results in disbelief. "This is unbelievable," Cross nodded. The implications were enormous. The Empire had unknowingly built a system capable of trapping itself. A single synchronized operation could blind entire sectors. The realization changed everything. The team now possessed a method to stop the invasion before it began. No massive fleet required. No planetary bombardment. No civilian casualties. Just silence. For the next several weeks, they prepared carefully. Every detail mattered. Every second had to be perfect. Failure was not an option. The operators studied schedules, communication patterns, security procedures, emergency response protocols. Nothing was left to chance. The final plan slowly took shape. It was bold, dangerous, and unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. One night, while reviewing preparations, one of the younger operators looked toward Commander Cross. "Do you think they'll ever understand what happened?" Cross considered the question, then he shook his head. "Not right away." The operator smiled. "What happens when the planets go silent?" Cross stared at the glowing map. The answer was simple. Panic. Confusion. Fear. Everything the Zorvax Empire had forced others to feel for years. Only this time, they would feel it themselves. Far away, across dozens of worlds, the Nexus network continued operating normally. Messages flowed, orders traveled. Fleets moved. The Empire remained strong, powerful, untouchable, or at least that was what everyone believed. Because hidden deep inside the network, invisible programs were waiting for a single command, waiting for the moment everything changed. And when that moment arrived, entire planets would suddenly stop responding. The operation began at exactly 02 Sour Galactic Standard Time. No warnings were sent. No fleets moved into position. No weapons were fired. Across the Zorvax Empire, everything appeared normal. People slept peacefully in their homes. Cargo ships followed their routes. Military officers worked late. Shifts inside command centers. News stations continued their broadcasts. The billions of citizens living across the Empire, it was just another ordinary day. They had no idea they were about to witness one of the most shocking events in galactic history. Far beyond their borders, hidden inside a small vessel drifting between stars, Commander Ethan Cross sat quietly before a control console. Tao. Other operators watched in silence. Months of planning had led to this moment, months of risk, months of infiltration, months of living inside enemy territory. Now everything depended on a single command. Dr. Lena Ward studied the final system. Reports on every Nexus hub was ready, every hidden program was active, every target was connected. She looked toward Cross. "It's your call." The commander took a slow breath. Then he pressed the activation. Nothing happened, at least nothing visible. There were no explosions, no dramatic alarms, no flashes of light, only silence. But deep inside the Nexus network, invisible code awakened. The hidden programs began moving through the system exactly as planned, one by one. They isolated critical communication hubs. Security protocols turned against themselves. Authorization systems locked out senior commanders. Military channels disappeared. Emergency backups failed to activate. The network started collapsing from within, and nobody noticed. Not at first. On Varkon Prime, an officer attempted to contact a nearby fleet. The transmission failed. He tried again. Nothing. Assuming it was a technical problem, he called maintenance. The engineers checked the equipment. Everything appeared normal. The officer shrugged and continued working. A few minutes later, another department reported similar issues, then another. Within an hour, the entire planetary communication grid had stopped functioning. Panic slowly began spreading. Through local command centers, technicians rushed between terminals. Engineers searched for faults. Nobody found any. The systems were operating perfectly, yet nothing worked. Then, orbital defense stations stopped responding. Military satellites vanished from command networks. Fleet tracking systems went dark. Varkon Prime had become completely isolated, and it was only the beginning across the Empire. The same thing happened again and again and again. Corrales went silent, then Narvox, then Talron, then dozens of other worlds. Communication links disappeared without explanation. Military networks collapsed. Planetary command centers lost contact with one another. The vast machine that connected the Empire suddenly stopped functioning. Within hours, confusion turned into fear. Emergency meetings were called. Admirals demanded answers. Government officials issued orders, but the orders never arrived. Messages became trapped inside broken communication channels. Entire fleets sat waiting for instructions that never came. Governors could not contact neighboring systems. Defense forces could not coordinate responses. The Empire's greatest strength had become its greatest weakness. Meanwhile, news networks struggled to understand what was happening. Reporters received conflicting information. Some claimed a cyber attack was underway. Others believed a new superweapon had been deployed. Rumors spread faster than facts. Citizens flooded communication centers with questions. Families tried contacting loved ones on distant worlds. Businesses attempted to reach partners across the Empire. Nobody received answers. The silence continued, growing hour after hour, system after system, planet after planet. Soon, the crisis reached the capital world itself. For the first time in generations, fear entered the halls of Zorvak's leadership. Senior military officers gathered inside the Imperial command chamber. The atmosphere was tense. No one was laughing anymore. No one was making jokes about humanity. The giant holographic map displayed a terrifying sight. Red warning symbols covered entire sectors. Communication losses were spreading faster than anyone predicted. One admiral slammed his fist onto the table. "This is impossible." Another shook his head. "We're losing control of entire regions." A third officer looked pale. "If this continues, we won't be able to coordinate fleet operations." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Without coordination, the Empire's military advantage disappeared. Without communication, their enormous fleets became scattered groups of isolated ships. Powerful, but blind. Then a security officer entered the chamber carrying an intelligence report. His expression was grim. The room immediately grew quiet. "What is it?" demanded the Supreme Commander. The officer hesitated. Then he answered, "We've discovered unauthorized activity inside multiple Nexus facilities." The room froze. Every face turned toward him. The officer continued, "The breaches occurred months ago." Months. The word struck the room like a weapon. Months. Someone had been inside their most secure systems for months. Someone had moved through their defenses without detection. Someone had prepared this operation long before the first planet went silent. The Supreme Commander stared at the report. For the first time, genuine fear appeared in his eyes. "Who?" The answer arrived seconds later. Another intelligence file appeared on the holographic display. 12 faces appeared. Human faces. The Same 12 operators the Empire had laughed at months earlier. The room became completely silent. No one spoke. No one moved. The realization hit like a physical blow. This entire disaster, this galactic crisis, this humiliation had been caused by 12 humans. Not an invasion fleet. Not a secret superweapon. Not an ancient enemy. 12 people. The same people everyone had mocked. The same people everyone had dismissed. The same people nobody took seriously. The Supreme Commander slowly sat down. For the first time since the crisis began, he understood the truth. Humanity had never threatened the Empire. Humanity had simply kept its promise. If our people are not returned peacefully, we will bring them home ourselves, the words echoed. Inside his mind, the humans had done exactly that. They had rescued their people. Then they had crippled an invasion before it could begin, not through destruction, not through mass death, but through intelligence, patience, and precision. Across the galaxy, panic continued spreading. The Galactic Council watched in shock. News channels broadcast non-stop coverage. Military analysts struggled to explain what had happened. Entire worlds remained silent. The mighty Zorvax Empire was stumbling blindly through its own territory. And somewhere in deep space, 12 human operators watched the results of their work. No celebrations filled the room, no cheers, no victory speeches, only quiet satisfaction. The mission was not about revenge. It was never about proving superiority. It was about stopping a threat, and now the threat had been stopped. Yet Commander Cross knew the story was not over. The galaxy still did not understand what humanity had truly done, but soon they would. Very soon, because the final lesson was still waiting to be delivered. The silence lasted for 6 days, 6 long days that changed the galaxy forever. During those 6 days, the mighty Zorvax Empire struggled to regain control of its own territory. Entire sectors remained isolated. Military fleets wandered without clear orders. Governors made decisions on their own because they could not reach higher authorities. Confusion spread faster than fear, and fear spread faster than anything else. For generations, the Zorvax Empire had projected an image of absolute strength. Now that image was breaking apart before everyone's eyes. Across the galaxy, governments watched carefully. Many races could hardly believe what they were seeing. The empire that once claimed to be unbeatable had been brought to its knees without a single planetary bombardment, without a massive war, without endless battles. The more information emerged, the stranger the story became. News organizations worked day and night to uncover the truth. Military experts studied every available report. Intelligence agencies compared data from dozens of star systems. The answer always pointed toward the same conclusion: humanity. More specifically, 12 human operators. The story sounded impossible, yet every investigation reached the same result. The human Special Forces team had infiltrated one of the most powerful empires in existence. They had rescued the captured scientists, discovered a secret invasion plan, found the weakness inside the Nexus network, and then used that weakness to stop a war before it could begin. The galaxy had never seen anything like it, not once in recorded history. Inside the Galactic Council, another emergency meeting was called. This time, the chamber was more crowded than ever. Representatives from hundreds of worlds attended. Every seat was filled. Every screen was active. Everyone wanted answers. At the center of the room stood the human ambassador. Calm, quiet, confident. The same confidence humanity had shown from the beginning. The council speaker addressed him first. The galaxy wishes to understand what happened. The ambassador nodded. What would you like to know? A representative from a distant star nation stood. Did humanity create a new weapon? No. Another representative spoke. Did humans attack civilian populations? No. A third representative leaned forward. Did you destroy the silent worlds? The ambassador shook his head. No. The room grew quieter. Many delegates exchanged confused looks. The human continued. The planets were never our target. That statement created even more questions. If the planets were not the target, then what was? The ambassador answered before anyone asked. Our objective was simple: rescue our people and prevent an invasion. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Everyone remembered the captured scientists. Everyone remembered the warnings Earth had issued months earlier. And everyone remembered how the Zorvax Empire had responded. With laughter, the human ambassador activated a large holographic display. Images appeared above the chamber. The first showed the captured research station. The second displayed the secret invasion plans. The third revealed Nexus facilities hidden throughout the Empire. For nearly an hour, the Council watched the evidence. The room became quieter with every passing minute. By the end, nobody doubted the truth. Humanity had acted only after discovering plans for a future attack. More importantly, they had chosen the least destructive option available. They could have sabotaged shipyards. They could have destroyed military installations. They could have started a war. Instead, they had targeted communications. The goal was never destruction. The goal was prevention. That difference mattered a lot. When the presentation ended, nobody spoke for several moments. Finally, an elderly representative stood. His species had been part of the Council for centuries. He looked directly at the human ambassador. Your team had the ability to cause much greater damage. Yes, the ambassador replied. Then why didn't they? The answer came immediately. Because victory is not measured by how much you destroy. The chamber became silent. The ambassador continued. True strength is knowing when destruction is unnecessary. The words spread quickly across the galaxy. News stations repeated them endlessly. Commentators debated them. Citizens discussed them. For many people, it completely changed how they viewed humanity. Before the crisis, humans were often seen as ambitious newcomers. Determined but inexperienced, bold but reckless. Now those assumptions were disappearing. The galaxy had witnessed something very different. Discipline, patience, control. Traits many races never expected from humanity. Meanwhile, inside the Zorvax Empire, major changes were taking place. The Supreme Commander resigned. Several senior officials were removed from power. Military reforms began almost immediately. The Empire's leaders finally accepted a painful truth. Their greatest defeat had not come from superior weapons. It had come from arrogance. They had underestimated their opponent, and they had paid the price. A formal diplomatic meeting was eventually arranged between Earth and the Zorvax government. The event attracted enormous attention. Billions watched the broadcast. Many expected anger. Many expected revenge. Instead, the meeting was surprisingly peaceful. The captured scientists were officially returned. The invasion plans were canceled. Both sides agreed to new border agreements. The crisis that could have become a devastating war ended without a single planet being destroyed. When the negotiations concluded, a Zorvax reporter asked a question that millions wanted answered. The question was directed toward the human ambassador. If the operation was so successful, why reveal yourselves at all? The ambassador smiled slightly. Then he answered, because the goal was never to create fear. The reporter looked confused. The ambassador continued, the goal was to create understanding. Months later, military academies across the galaxy were still studying the operation. Books were written about it. Documentaries were produced. Training programs analyzed every stage of the mission. The campaign eventually received an official name: the Silent Worlds Operation. Future generations would learn about it for centuries, not because of the planets that stopped responding, but because of what happened afterward. The operation proved something important. Power was not always measured by fleet size. It was not always measured by military budgets, and it was not always measured by the number of worlds under a flag. Sometimes power came from determination, from intelligence, from courage, and from the willingness to do what others believed was impossible. Years later, new officers entering military service often heard the same warning. It became famous throughout the galaxy. A simple sentence repeated by instructors, commanders, and veterans alike. Never laugh at human special forces, Because everyone knew what happened the last time someone did. Entire planets went silent, and the galaxy never forgot the lesson.